Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Digital Gate Studios production. Justin, a deck that you were supposed to put on this channel 2 formats ago.
My bad.
But there's a good reason for you to come today with it.
Well, first, we're playing it, trying to make a lot of compromises. One of the Magnamons is not as good, and that's kind of a spoiler of what this is. We're bringing Magnamon. I think I really like Veemon. I played Imperial. I started with that deck. I played Imperial during a format where it wasn't particularly good. It was BT11. Kind of got destroyed by Black or Gray, and tried to make it work. I played Armors. I've played every single form of this deck that you can think of. I've probably played it, but now we have some tools, and it came in a structure deck that wasn't even targeted towards our deck.
The green structure deck gave us a blue armor form.
Which is...
Thank you, Bandai.
Yeah, but anyways, I think this is as competitive as this deck gets. I actually think very, very highly of this. I think it has very good matchups into the current meta. It only gets stronger in BT16, but people are really sleeping on it right now.
Agreed.
And it's Magnamon. A lot of cards you're going to see, kind of a problem with the Veemon stuff is a lot of the Veemons are the same. A lot of the Veemons that are good are the same.
This is
so
true.
You're going to see a couple of the similar cards, but we're going to start off with the eggs. We got the banned card. I mean,
Kumamon, jamming.
If you know
Very
me,
nice.
If you know me and Basil, if it's banned, we're putting it in our deck. I can't really say anything more. Part of what makes this deck really good is it forces your opponent to do something, and if they do it incorrectly, it punishes them really hard.
This is true.
This is a very aggressive deck, and it has some of the best mid-range cards I think the game has ever seen. We'll see those in a bit. Going on to the next egg, we're playing 4 of the BT11 Wanumons. We need to draw cards.
It's true.
We empty our hand really fast, and if you don't start with a really strong engine to get cards in your hand, you'll run out of them, and your hands will get a little bit awkward. We're playing 5 eggs because, spoiler alert, there's a white Rascal in the deck. Kind of keeps sneaking its way into every single deck I play, but, you know, so be it. We got another card. It's Veemon. It is the promo Veemon. You can get it from the New York City Comic Con structure deck or the movies if you saw it.
Yeah, if you saw.
But this Veemon is really good. Every deck that says free, so basically its entire evolution line, it gets reduced by 1. It has the insane effect of when attacking. Not once per turn, by the way. Can come up. It's very niche cases. But if you're 2 colors, draw a card. The Wanumon also draws another card if you have a blue Tamer. So a lot of times this is kind of the Veemon that you want swinging with your stacks. Draws you a ton of cards, makes your evolutions cheaper. And the small caveat is you need a Tamer. So it works with any Tamer. Doesn't need to be Davis, doesn't need to be blue. So as long as you got a Tamer, it reduces the next time you evolve into a free by 1. Pretty good. Undeniable. It's probably one of the best Veemons they've printed.
Yep.
Speaking of cards that refill our hand, we're playing 4 of the old Starter Deck 9. Starter Deck 9 Veemon Searcher. Searches for a free. Searches basically the entire deck outside a couple cards. Every time you hard play a Veemon with one of the cards in the future, really want to be refilling your hand. This deck, eventually in the mid game, you'll see your entire deck. Just the nature of all of the searches, all of the draws. So kind of facilitates our early game and kind of justifies dumping our hand in the early game for sure. And next, got another one.
The better searcher.
The better searcher. So, you know, we're playing the power creep searcher and the new searcher because it's that important to search your cards. A lot of times you want to see a Veemon. A lot of times you want to see a Davis. This one is crazy because it searches for both a free and a Davis. The inherited is kind of irrelevant because we're not playing Imperial Jijimon.
Shakomon didn't make the list?
No.
Horrible.
But this Veemon's really good. You want to see this more than this one, obviously, but it's Veemon. Both of them have Veemon in name. So
Which is important.
It's important. It makes our cost to evolve into the Magnamons cheaper. If it's not a Veemon, then it's really expensive. So speaking of more searchers, you want more? We got one more. We got the Bt8.
So
Veemon.
10 searcher Veemons, Justin.
Yeah, you need to see. I can't change it up. You just need to see your. You just need to see your Magnamons. Refills your hand. It's named Veemon. I went back on a couple versions with the Kumamon from BT14, but
The SR.
Yeah, but the evolution cost, because it's not a
Too
Veemon,
expensive.
it's too expensive. So we have to go full gas on everything that's named Veemon and everything that's got free in its name. And speaking of free, speaking of that white rascal.
Yeah, this card's a free for some reason, so that's
Yeah.
cool.
Also, it's a free, so it searches off these Veemons. Go figure. I don't know. Bandai really said, let's make these characters correlate by having it being free.
Yeah, if you've seen the movie, it makes sense. But if you've played the game, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so we have this white alien that's just like chilling. And this card's amazing. It works off the Wanyamon. The Wanyamon only requirement is to have a blue Tamer. Same thing for the Bukamon, technically. So you can swing jamming a lot with the Ukamon.
on turn 2.
On turn 2. Really
Or
force-
turn 1.
Or turn 1. Hint for another card showing up in his deck. But this deck, it spits out a lot of bodies. And when the bodies leave, you can protect them in a really cool way because all the Magnamons are blockers. So if this ever lives a check, or if any of the Veemons ever live a check, it's really hard to just swing over them. And conversely, swinging over the cards that protect them are pretty hard because they all have Armor Purge. And going into the level 4s, we have the new Magnamon. And this is kind of the reason why I was waiting. This card's bonkers. This card is really
This is
insane.
another card that read it multiple times.
Read it
Keep
multiple
reading it
times.
until you fully understand it.
It says, when evolving, strip the... Well, actually, let me go back. For some reason, we have a security effect
Yeah.
in blue. It's blue and black. It says to de-digivolve 1, and you may evolve into this card if you have a card that can facilitate its evolution, which is pretty good.
Which
De-digivolve
we have, I think, 1 or 2 Veemons in the deck.
Yeah.
So that's good.
But on evolving, you can trash the top card of your opponent's Digimon stack, or not the top card, but its evolution stack. And if it's multiple colors, you can strip up to the amount that how many colors it has, right? So if it's a 2-colored card, you strip 2 off of the top. And then this is crazy. I can't believe they printed it on a level 4 because if it has no sources, you can bounce right after. So imagine the scenario. Your opponent is into a level 6 with 2 colors.
Okay.
They hit it out of security. That sucks. De-digivolve 1. Oh, the level 5, the thing underneath it is 2 colors. Strip 2. And if there's no egg, it's bounced to hand. But even more than that is if they have other bodies on the board that don't have sources, it's gone. There's no level requirement on the bounce. And this is probably one of the strongest parts about this card is it doesn't say, oh, then bounce a level 4 or lower, bounce a level 5 or lower. Anything without sources. And if you think about the metagame right now, we have red hybrids running amok.
True.
Okay? Not a lot of sources on those cards.
Just the Takuya.
Just the Takuya. See a Takuya. Bounce to hand. No on deletions. Numemon X Antibody. They play a lot of their level 4s. It's gone. You have cards like Chaosdramon where you strip 2 sources because it's 2 colors.
Why'd you have to throw a machine like that, man?
But any cards...
Or you're forgetting the biggest one. Leviamon X Antibody.
Right.
Leviamon X, that's usually the whole stack.
Because it usually gets played out by Biting Crush, so there's no sources. And this is, when I say mid-range, it's just like in the middle of the game, you're playing the best possible play. This is probably one of the strongest cards they've ever printed in the level 4 slot. It does so much. And we haven't even talked about, it has blocker and it has armor purge. It's really sticky. It stops a lot of the chip damage, so a lot of aggressive decks are going to be kind of shaking their head about, how do I get checks against this deck? It's bouncing my rookies. I can't kill it. And even if I do purge, we can reuse our Veemons. We can do all of our things again. And it's kind of the reason why I was waiting. And this Magnamon definitely fully replaces the old Magnamon. But this one just does so much more. Speaking of which, this Magnamon also quite strong. The old BT13 Magnamon, the Royal Knights one, usually played in a deck that kind of removes it. You get a draw and doesn't really
you
play
go
it.
under Yggdrasil, you draw a card.
Yeah, and that's kind of the end of it. However, in the Veemon deck, spits out a Veemon, draws you a card, and this is the crazy part about the distinction between Armor Purge and this effect, is it plays out a new Veemon. And why that's important is because if this gets deleted by DP Neg, usually if it was a regular armor form, you would purge, and then we're still
Like game processing, we are dead.
we're still dead. However, neg 12k here. Okay, who cares? We'll draw one card and we'll play out a Veemon.
And it's a new Digimon.
And it's a new Digimon, and we played one of our 10 searchers in the deck. So we're never really going to be running out of Magnamons to play. This card's phenomenal. It's super sticky. And yeah, I mean, it lives through Chaos Degrade. I mean, or it activates through Chaos Degrade. It leaves the battlefield. So it's a very important distinction, and it kind of makes the deck super aggressive. It'll always leave a threat on the board, and you can always feel comfortable swinging with it. So speaking of, lastly, we got the last Magnamon. This one's a little bit power crept, has a lot less text, a lot less relevant text rather. Just for housekeeping, all of these evolve for 3 on a Veemon, so you're never really paying the expensive
The
4.
4 cost. Unless you want to.
Unless you want to. It's a you may.
It is a you may.
For anyone that doesn't know. But this one, on evolution, it unsuspends itself and then gains 2k for every armor form in your trash. Sometimes this gets massive.
Yeah, sometimes it's randomly an 18k level 4.
You're just like, well, swing over your cord.
Yeah, right.
Like, okay. But the only times this really comes up and it's better than these 2 Magnamons is, let's say I've swung with this one, it dies, we've armor purged, but we're suspended. Then we can evolve over it with this Magnamon to unsuspend and kind of get value there. And then we're an 11k blocker. Other than that, it's not as, you really want to be seeing these ones.
That's true. It's just another Magnamon.
It's just another Magnamon. And going to our last level 4s, oh, they're mixed up, is the 2 Kumamons. This one is weird because I thought I would never see this guy again. He's kind of a little bit of power crept by the Lanamon.
Yeah, normally we're looking for that jamming hybrid.
But in his case, he has the key distinction that he trashes when evolving. And as you can see, we have one of these already where it's dependent on the amount of sources that they have. So when we're Kumamoning on top of a Veemon, it doesn't feel as bad because we're setting up for future turns where we're trying to bounce a boss monster. Sometimes we don't have enough sources, enough source strip to get over a level 6 that has some X antibodies, or perhaps Machine that's tucked a lot of level 5s. I'll keep bringing up Machine, I'm sorry. But in this case, Kumamon feels a little bit better than the Lanamon.
True.
Speaking of source strip, going on to our level 5s, we only got 4 of them, playing Zudomon Ace.
Yeah.
And this is solidifying itself as probably the best Ace card they've printed. It's been seeing a lot of play in every blue deck across time. Seen in Mirage. We play it in some security control decks that play like blue Digimon. This card's phenomenal. Again, one of the key distinctions with this versus a lot of other blue cards is the bounce target doesn't matter. It doesn't care about level.
Bounce level 7.
Bounce level 7. Do you have sources? If no, bye. See you later. So that's kind of why we're running the Kumamon. It has great synergy with this Magnamon. We source strip 1, and then it's like, okay, well, I hope you have more than 3 sources, you know, or 3 or more sources. This deck is super disruptive because we're playing the Ukumon, we're getting the Veemons out from this Magnamon. Suddenly we have Digimon on board that are suspended and not dead. Because even if they die in security, we armor purge, we play another one out. So your opponent is really encouraged to raise and start doing something proactive, or else they're gonna get run down by Veemons. But suddenly losing your level 5 for free is game losing.
Yes.
And this is one of the trickiest parts about playing against this deck, is that you want to raise and you want to fight back. Sometimes it isn't that great.
Yeah.
You overextend your boss monster, it gets source stripped by this Magnamon, gets Digivolve, and then suddenly you get Zudo Aced. Ouch. And that's it for the level 5s. We have another Ace card. Quite annoying as well.
Azulong Ace.
Zulong Ace. Blast, bounce to level 5. And also, it has the really cool effect of unsuspending a Great Sovereign. So we can swing with the Zudo Ace, and if it lives, we can actually push for another point of damage if we have enough memory. Evo for 4, unsuspend and swing again. On top of the fact, its on deletion is also, again, really disruptive. On deletion, kill your opponent's highest level. Doesn't start at lowest, starts at highest.
Yep.
So even though this can overflow -7.
I was gonna say a lot. The people are already thinking in their minds, overflow 7, Justin.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter if their entire board is gone.
This is true. It's either bounced or deleted.
It's bounced or deleted, and a lot of aggro decks can't say it has the same fighting power for the board. It mostly is like, eventually I'm going to run out of gas, and then I have to play a really expensive option card. But you can naturally remove things on the board with these 6 cards. And then going on to the Tamers, we're going to go in a little bit of a weird order because we have Davis. This card's insane. It's Senjuro. It spits out a Veemon. The reason why we need all these searchers is to facilitate. This card basically goes -2 in hand. Gotta get it back somehow.
It's true.
Start of main, gain a memory if you control a free. Never has to unsuspend itself or suspend itself for the Kumamon.
Yep.
It's always available for hybrids. The XV evolution doesn't matter. We're not playing Imperial.
No XVs.
No XVs. And his partner.
We'll see in BT16.
Yeah. And his partner in crime, Louis. These guys are friends now. Every deck that has Ukomon can probably put in 1 to 3 Louis. Facilitates more breeding phases. Gets us more draw. Is another tamer to proc the Veemon at the earlier stages of the game.
Choking this deck to 1 is fake.
Yeah. How much we were playing? And
we were playing, and I was like, I can put him to 1. Okay, promote, gain 1 off the Uko, gain 1 off the Louis, gain 2 off the Davis. Now he's at 5.
Oh, remember when I said Uko was a free? He counts for Davis.
Counts for Davis.
So,
Smile.
Yeah, this deck gets a lot of memory, and it's not through Digimon. So, memory floodgates.
Memory floodgates only stop the Uko.
Yeah, and they're going to get bounced. So, you have a lot of memory gain for those really big turns, and people were probably wondering, how do we get into a Zudomon Ace on a single turn? You'll start the turn with 7 memory.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of damage. And these last 7 cards, these cards can be a lot of cards. These are what I'm currently working with. These are kind of what I'm thinking is the best. However, at the end of the video...
More testing to come.
Yeah, more testing to come. At the end of the video, I'll say some honorable mentions, cards that you can put in. But going into some of the options, we have 3 of the mental trainings. Put in trainings in your deck. Consistency
Pretty
booster. You can evolve into your Magnamons for 1.
Or 0.
Or 0 if you have this Veemon with the Tamer. Which is quite strong.
That's quite good. Going into armor form for 0, hard to argue.
Hard to argue, really good. We have, this is a weird one. This deck source strips, and you're like thinking, oh, the Kakumon, the Gomamon, and maybe the Joe. We're playing 1 Joe. This card is interesting because the rest of these cards basically are tech cards that you are nice to see because it's like, oh, it gives me more options to see things. If you can tell, this deck draws a lot, draws a ton. This Veemon and the Wanyamon oftentimes draw you 2. Every time you have an Ukomon on top of a Wanyamon, that's drawing you 1. All of the cards replace themselves basically, and they search. So these cards, it's like you have 20 cards in hand, and you're kind of on a dead turn after your opponent has fought back for the board, because eventually it'll happen. You're giving them a decent amount of memory with these cards. So a lot of times it's you evolve in the back, and you're like, okay, I'll play a training. I'll play a Joe. I'll play any of these tech cards. And that's kind of what these last 7 cards are. These are kind of what you're playing during your dead turns. So going on to the next one, we have 1 Hammer Spark. Sometimes you just need a little bit more memory to get game. Zulong is quite expensive to evolve. Sometimes you don't have 2 memory for the Kumamon because the way you gain memory is by controlling a free or raising. Sometimes your board is wiped and you're on a back turn for your raising phase, so you'll actually get choked to 1, which is, a problem. But if we have Hammer Spark, we can gain the 1 memory to swing for our hybrid if they have 0 security. Likewise, here's another one that's quite good. Ice Wall, if it's banned, we're playing it.
True.
On those dead turns, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to die. I better play this, and maybe you'll live. And lastly, we got 1 Death X. We draw a lot. You'll see these cards frequently, and even more, you can cut these trainings for anything. You can cut this Death X for Heaven's Judgment. We're playing a lot of colors. You can cut it for Fire Rocket for more aggression. You can cut them for more Hammer Sparks. You can cut them for more Joes to make your evolutions elsewhere
We were
cheaper.
talking about Sora and Joe perhaps in this deck.
Yeah, you can play Sora and Joe to strip 2 sources when you're swinging, because you are swinging with Reckless Abandon on these armors. The deck is super aggressive, and we really want to make it appealing to our opponent to raise early and then get punished. And get punished.
Another couple cards we're thinking about. 1, obviously, Magnamon X.
Magnamon X.
Why have you shied away from that card in this list, Justin?
Similarly to this Magnamon, when you evolve it, it's like a then what? Like, I'm not really winning. However, it has the really powerful effect of stalling the game out, especially against decks that can't remove it easily. In my head, it's like, Numemon, you got 7 Digimon and you can't DP minus it all the way. There's other decks like D-Police where it's like, okay, I'm staring at 12 Commandramons on my board.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really push us to our win condition, and I'm really focusing on this to be a hyper-aggressive, there's a very obvious line, and our opponent needs to answer it kind of deck. So if you wanted to shy away from the hyper aggression, you can definitely play it. And the nice thing about it is you can't lose these armor forms because after it dies, it just puts himself on the top.
Yep.
So very, very sticky. We're thinking about, just a ton of other cards. You can put in... If you did
Amphimon Ace.
Amphimon Ace, you can replace the Azulong. If you ended up playing the Magnamon X Antibody, you have a target for Ruin mode. So it's a ton of cards that can fit in this deck. And I encourage anyone that's really interested in this archetype to explore. This is the strongest we're gonna get until BT16, and I think it's.
And then we got to make room for that secret rare.
Yeah, maybe we'll just like cut these 6 cards. But that's the deck profile. This deck is super fun. I think it's really competitive.
Yeah, this deck will surprise your opponents.
It surprises your opponents, and it has the best form of removal, so can't be wrong.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Justin. If you like this deck, see us in the comments. We'll talk about it in there. And until then, we'll catch you guys in the next one.